Like chiropractic. And this is a video that I try and bring to you each and every week that is the latest, greatest topics that we're having at the office with our active patient population here in Orlando. And I've got a really cool story to tell you, very interesting story that I wanted to share. I think it's really important for you, but I need to preface some of this story with some background information. And tonight's background information is going to bore you to tears. No, I'm kidding. Stay with me. So tonight's background information is about the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration. Have you ever heard those letters before? Maybe you hear about them in the news occasionally. It seems like everyone has a positive or negative connotation with the FDA these days. But I bet you don't really understand where it started, why it started, and maybe what it's become. But I need to tell you some of that before I get to tonight's story. So back in 1906, the original Food and Drugs Act gets passed by Congress, and it is actually really important because in 1906, there's all kinds of crazy supplements, food items, drinks, drugs, things being passed all over the place, sold all over the place, and we needed some way to stop that because it was actually killing people. And so in 1906, they come up with this idea that we have an act now that people have to follow the rules. And it was good then, and then it had this kind of maturing, aging, growing, and 115 years later, we have something that's very, very different. So yes, they still do that, and I think that that's important, but they do a variety of other things now that might not be good. And this is kind of where people get hung up now, I think. So let's talk about what happens now that everyone has this negative connotation to. So we're 115 years-ish later, and about 90% of all new drugs approved by the FDA over the past 30 years are little or no more effective than for patients than existing drugs, right? So think about that for a second. 90% of all the drugs they're coming out with are not better than the drugs that we already have out there. So probably not so good, not so important at least, right? But so all of those drugs that they're coming out with, they might be better than placebos that they're tested against, but they're not necessarily better than the drugs that are already on market. So that's important because now you have these drug companies that are pushing dollars into the FDA to have them race through to clear these new medications, to keep these medications patented, but they're not better than what's out there and cheap. That's important because prescription drugs are the fourth leading cause of death. That's not my numbers. You can go look that up. And if we are rushing drugs to market, we're not necessarily making sure that they are the safest thing that patients can be taking. So that's not so good. So like I just said, industry being the pharmaceutical industry, starts making these large contributions to the FDA, and then suddenly we are kind of awash in extra medications that make pharmaceutical companies money but don't necessarily make us healthier, better, live longer. Anyways, you'd think that I'm on that side of boo FDA, no good FDA, right? But listen, if the only thing the FDA was doing was providing us with accurately priced medications that are safe and effective, I would be really disappointed, right? I am kind of disappointed that that's not exactly what we're getting from this government agency, but the FDA still does what it was built to do, and it actually does it pretty darn well. And that brings me back to the story, right? So the story this week, on Monday, I had a patient come in, Miss Sarah, right? And she's 80 years old, and she had a kidney transplant about 10 years ago. She has a variety of medical conditions from hypertension, cardiovascular diseases. She's got diabetes type 2, just a litany of conditions. And she needs help, right? So she treats with me for some hip and back pain. That's fine. That's besides the point. She needs help getting a supplement that she's been taking that her friend in Chile was buying in Mexico and then shipping to her here. And so she whips out this bottle right here. And this is called Archery Ajo King. That's like the brand name there. I don't know if you can see it. And it's one of a variety of supplements that were put out by this I don't even know what the name of this company is. Anyways, variety of these supplements, and here's what they have in them, right? Here's the supplement that she was taking that I said, oh my gosh, okay, I'll help you to find this. And it has glucosamine, chondroitin, collagen, vitamin C, curcumin, ortiga, which is actually nettles, omega-3, which is fish oil, and then MSM. So this sounds on its face like it is a fantastic joint supplement, right? Why wouldn't I help Miss Sarah try and find this supplement, this great supplement? So I Googled it real quick and I said, let's just Amazon this, right? We'll get Amazon to send Miss Sarah this supplement, no problem. And I bumped into an article from April 20th of 2022. And this is the reason that Miss Sarah can't find this supplement. So in April 20th of 2022, the FDA did their job. And what they did was they linked this product to a variety of deaths and then tested this supplement to see what was in it. And what they found was that this has steroids, which cause blood pressure changes and adrenal dysfunction. It has diclofenac, which is an NSAID that can lead to stroke or gastrointestinal damage. And it has muscle relaxers, which can cause drowsiness or low blood pressure. What? I mean, of course she was feeling better taking these things. She's taking a cocktail that we use at the emergency room for trauma, and her joints are feeling better because she's taking all of the things that unnaturally make you feel better, right? And they're great for that. Like, don't get me wrong, they are good when they're used appropriately, but in this context, they're not being used appropriately, and the FDA stepped in and they shut it all down. Right? Fantastic. Good job, FDA. Well done. That's what we're looking for. But it brings us to a couple of different important connotations here this evening, which one is, if you've ever seen this supplement, if you have this supplement, stop taking this supplement. Throw this away as quickly as you can. It is not good for you. It's loaded with all kinds of weird stuff, and you can go look at the FDA release a whole bunch of articles about why it's so bad for you. So the lessons this evening, you got to be responsible for everything that you're taking, right? And Miss Sarah didn't know any better, and I understand completely. It's an interesting looking bottle, right? One of the only things that this bottle is missing, which is a very important thing, is something that the FDA requires. And that is the nutritional facts, that little white label that has like all the ingredients and how much of them and how it relates to your recommended daily allowance. And if it's got other weird stuff in all the ingredients list, it doesn't have that. Right? So anything that you're taking should have that so that you know what's in it and that somebody is paying attention to purity and processing standards, right? So really important lesson there for you. You should research your own medical conditions, but also you need to make sure that whatever you're taking has that nutritional information. Anyways, I hope that can help somebody out there. If you ever have questions about nutritional supplementation, maybe the FDA, although I'm no expert on the FDA, and I'm kind of middle of the road. As you can see here this evening, I don't like what they're doing with the new medications, but I think that they are keeping some of us safe by keeping stuff like this out of market. I think next week we are talking about joint position and the variety of things that it can affect. It might be a good conversation if you have any joints that are out of place. And you might not even know which joints I'm talking about, but it's weird because all of our joints go out of place in the same directions, and that's how we develop arthritis. That's it for this Wednesday Night Wellness Live. Thank you for watching. As usual, this is being broadcast to a variety of different places all at the same time. And if you need me, you can always find me at Dr. Merrill at nightlightchiropractic.com. I will see you next week for another Wednesday Night Wellness Live. Good night.